Hi again, and welcome back for the final part of I'm gonna close the door. Done. Goodbye. Hi, and welcome back to chapter 14, final part, also called part 4, for this chapter, and sit back and enjoy what I am now going to read. Oh boy, this is truly fun. Dr. Seward's Diary, 26th of September. Truly, there is no such thing as finality. Not a week since I said fini. And yet here I am starting fresh again, or rather going on with the same record. Until this afternoon I had no cause to think of what is done. Renfield had become, to all intents, as sane as he ever was. He was already well ahead with his fly business, and he had just started in the spider line also. So he had not been any trouble to me. I had a letter from Arthur, written on Sunday, and from it I gather that he is bearing up wonderfully well. Quincy Morris is with him, and that is much of a help, for he himself is a bubbling well of good spirits. Quincy wrote me a line too, and from him I hear that Arthur is beginning to recover something of his old bureaucracy. Buoyancy. So as to them, all my mind is at rest. As for myself, I was settling down to my work with the enthusiasm which I used to have for it, so that I might fairly have said that the wound which poor Lucy left on me was becoming cicatrized. Everything is, however, now reopened, and what is to be the end, God only knows. I have an idea that Van Helsing thinks he knows too, but he will only let out enough at a time to what curiosity. He went to Exeter yesterday and stayed there all night. Today he came back and almost bounded into my room at about 5:30, and thrust last night's Westminster Gazette into my hand. "What do you think of that?" he asked, as he stood back and folded his arms. I looked over the paper, for I really did not know what he meant. But he took it from me and pointed out a paragraph about children being decoyed away at Hampstead. It did not convey much to me until I reached a passage where it described small punctured wounds on their throats. An idea struck me and I looked up. "Well," he said, "it is like poor Lucy's." "And what do you make of it?" "Simply that there is some cause in common. Whatever it was that injured her has injured them." I did not quite understand his answer. "That is true indirectly, but not directly." "How do you mean, Professor?" I asked. I was a little inclined to take his seriousness lightly, for after all 4 days of rest and freedom from burning, harrowing anxiety does help to restore one's spirits. But when I saw his face, it sobered me. Never, even in the midst of our despair about poor Lucy, had he told me, had he looked more stern. "Tell me," I said. "I can hazard no opinion. I do not know what to think, and I have no data on which to found a conjecture." "Do you mean to tell me, friend John, that you have no suspicion as to what poor Lucy died of?" Not after all the hints given, not only by events, but by me? Of nervous prostration following on great loss or waste of blood. And how the blood lost or waste? I shook my head. He stepped over and sat down beside me and went on. You are a clever man, friend John. You reason well, and your wit is bold. But you are too prejudiced. You do not let your eyes see, nor your ears hear. And that which is outside your daily life is not of account to you. Do you not think that there are things which you cannot understand, and yet which are? That some people see things that others cannot. But there are things old and new, which must not be contemplated by men's eyes, because they know, or think they know, some things which other men have told them. It is the fault of our science that it wants to explain all. And if it explain not, then it says there's nothing to explain. But yet we see around us every day the growth of new beliefs which think themselves new, and which are yet but the old, which pretend to be young, like the fine ladies at the opera. I suppose now you do not believe in corporeal transference, no? Nor in materialization, no? Nor in astral bodies, no? Nor in the reading of thought, no? Nor in hypnotism. Yes, I said. Sharkrod has proved that pretty well. He smiled as he went on. Then you are satisfied as to it, yes? And of course, then you understand how it acts and can follow the mind of the great Charcot. Alas, that he is no more, into the very soul of the patient that he influenced, no? Then, friend John, I am to take it that you simply accept fact and are satisfied to let from premise to conclusion be a blank, no? Then tell me, for I am student of the brain, how you accept the hypnotism and reject the thought reading. Let me tell you, my friend, that there are things done today in electrical science which would have been deemed unholy by the very men who discovered electricity, who would themselves not so long before have been burned as wizards. There are always mysteries in life. Why was it that Methuselah lived 900 years and Old Parr 169? And yet that poor Lucy, with 4 men's blood in her poor veins, could not live even one day. For had she lived one more day, we could have saved her. Do you know the mystery of life and death? Do you know the altogether of comparative anatomy, and can say wherefore the qualities of brutes are in some men and not in others? Can you tell me why, when other spiders die small and soon, that one great spider lived for centuries in the tower of the old Spanish church and grew till, on descending, he could drink the oil of all the church lamps? Can you tell me why in the pampas, and elsewhere, there are bats that come at night and open the veins of cattle and horses and suck dry their veins? How in some islands of the western seas there are bats which hang on the trees all day? That those who have seen described as like giant nuts or pods, and that when the sailors sleep on their deck, because that it is hot, flit down on them, and then in the morning are found dead men, white as even Miss Lucy was? Good God, Professor, I said, starting up, do you mean to tell me that Lucy was bitten by such a bat, and that such a thing is here in London in the day? Good God, Professor, I said, starting up, do you mean to tell me that Lucy was bitten by such a bat, and that such a thing is here in London in the 19th century? He waved his hand for silence and went on. Can you tell me why the tortoise lives more alone than generations of men? Why the elephant goes on and on until he have seen dynasties, and why the parrot never die only of bite of cat or dog or other complaint? Can you tell me why men believe in all ages and places that there are some few who live on always if they be permit, that there are men and women who cannot die? We all know, because science has vouched for the fact, that there have been toads shut up in rocks for thousands of years, shut in one so small hole that only hold him since the youth of the world. Can you tell me how the Indian fakir can make himself to die and have been buried, and his grave sealed and corn sown on it, and the corn reaped and be cut and sown and reaped and cut again, and then men come and take away the unbroken seal, and that there lies the Indian fakir, not dead, but that rise up and walk amongst them as before? Here I interrupted him. I was getting bewildered. He so crowded on my mind his list of nature's eccentricities and possible impossibilities that my imagination was getting fired. I had a dim idea that he was teaching me some lesson as long ago he used to do in his study in Amsterdam. But he used then to tell me the thing so that I could have the object of thought in mind all the time. But now I was without his help, yet I wanted to follow him, so I said, Professor, let me be your pet student again. Tell me the thesis so that I may apply your knowledge as you go on. At present I am going in my mind from point to point as a madman, and not a sane one. Follows an idea. I feel like a novice blundering through a bog in the mist, jumping from one tussock to another, in the mere blind effort to move on without knowing where I am going. That is good image, he said. Well, I shall tell you. My thesis is, I want you to believe. To believe what? To believe in things that you cannot. Let me illustrate. I heard once of an American who so defined faith that which enables us to believe things which we know to be untrue. For one, I follow that man. He meant that we shall have an open mind and not let a little bit of truth check the rush of a big truth, like a small rock does a railway track. We get the small truth first. Good. We keep him and we value him. But all the same, we must not let him think himself all the truth in the universe. Then you want me not to let some previous conviction endure the receptivity of my mind with regard to some strange matter? Do I read your lesson all right? Ah, you are my favorite pupil still. It is worth to teach you. Now that you are willing to understand, you have taken the first step to understand. You think then that those so small holes in the children's throats were made by the same that made the hole in Miss Lucy? I suppose so. He stood up and said solemnly, Then you are wrong. Oh, would it were so, but alas, no, it is worse, far, far worse. In God's name, Professor Van Helsing, what do you mean? I cried. He threw himself with a despairing gesture into a chair and placed his elbows on the table, covering his face with his hands as he spoke. They were made by Miss Lucy. And therefore we have reached the end of chapter 40. Thanks for watching. Like the video, please, if you enjoyed listening. And don't forget to subscribe for more lessons in reading and naturally Dracula and other books coming up soon. As I have prepared some stuff and it will be out there in just a short while. So please be patient, like the videos and help me out a bit. So until next time, have a nice day or days or weeks. We will see, but hope to see you again. Goodbye, my friend.